Hey everybody, I hope you've all had a great week. It's been another very, very busy week in Washington, D.C. We passed a number of important bills. Before I get to all of those important bills and everything that went on, I did just recently get off the phone with the colonel that's in charge of the Corps of Engineers down in the state of Florida. Spoke to him a little bit about what's going on with the discharges going out into our estuaries. When can we expect this to stop? What is the plan that's in place? What are the things that they're looking at? So I did just speak to them. One of the things that the colonel mentioned to me to read over this, he said that he's probably not expected to end the releases that are going out into our estuary, into my own backyard, for probably at least another month. I always like to relay the information that I get from them. Right now the lake is sitting at about 15 foot 8 inches, and they're trying to get the lake down to 13 feet by June 1, because that's the beginning of the rainy season. So this is what he's relaying to me, that they want that lake down to 13 feet by June 1 for the beginning of the rainy season, and he's not anticipating ceasing the releases into our backyard for about another month. That's what was just relayed to me. On a more positive front on that fight, there is a potential going on. Some of the things that we're working on with some other channels with appropriations and the potential for another maybe up to $50 million that could be put towards these projects, but that's something for another day, but something that we are looking at. So that's a little bit more positive on that front. To talk about the bills and everything that we were doing, not just the phone calls that I had this week, but to talk about the bills that were actually going on this week. The first one I'll talk about, we have the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act, we have the Enhancing Veteran Care Act, the Taylor Force Act. I also helped introduce a bill called the Fair Heroes Act. But first, on Monday, the House of Representatives, first thing we did when I got back here on Monday was to vote to bring the Tax Cuts and the Jobs Act to conference. What that means is that a committee that's made up of Republican and Democrat representatives from the House of Representatives and the Senate will now meet to reconcile some of the differences that we had between the Senate version of tax cuts and the House version of tax cuts. This is a major step forward in passing the first major tax reform since the 1980s. There are a few differences remaining, but major principles unite the bills to cut taxes, to simplify tax filing, to grow the size of your paycheck. That is the whole purpose of this, to make sure that you get to keep more money in your pocket. I've given a number of statistics on how tax cuts and the bill that I voted on in the House of Representatives affects our district. This is one of the most important statistics that I could give about how this tax bill affects our district. 70% of our district takes the standard deduction when it comes to filing their taxes. Our bill doubles the standard deduction for individuals from $6,000 to $12,000 basically, for head of household from $9,000 to $18,000 basically, and basically for married filing jointly from $12,000 to $24,000. I've had a number of questions from people talking about, that statistic and saying 70% of our district take that standard deduction, and people saying, well, I submitted a mortgage interest rate, or I submitted, sales tax, or I submitted some charitable giving that they had, and in looking at their taxes, they weren't fully realizing that they submitted that information when they were filing their taxes, but the amount that equaled up to still was not the amount that actually brought them up to the standard deduction, so they still ended up taking the standard deduction. And I've run into a lot of folks that didn't actually realize about their own taxes, and so that's something to keep in mind. One of the other major things about this tax bill, we literally in our district, we have about 42,000 families that are taking the child tax credit. So the child tax credit, currently $1,000. The bill that I voted on in the House takes that $1,000 child tax credit and bumps it up to $1,600, a big increase for families out there with children. So let me give you a few examples of how this might play out for some families in our community. Let's say that you're a family of four making about $59,000 per year, so 2 children. What their taxes look like before, or what your taxes look like before, is you would pay 10% on the first $18,650 of your income, 10% on that, and then 15% on the rest of that income, all the rest of that bringing you up to that $59,000 mark. Under the plan that we passed in the House of Representatives, you would pay 0%, nothing, on the first $24,000 of your income, and then on the rest of your income, bringing you up to that $59,000 mark, you would only pay 12% instead of 15%. That is a big tax cut. It could result in as much, and it actually could be even more than that when you talk about bringing up that child tax credit and stuff, but that could mean somewhere between $1,000 to $2,000 in savings on your taxes over the previous year. That is a lot of money, and that's real money in the pockets of people. So let's use another example of a single senior who's going out there and they're on a fixed income, making maybe somewhere around $30,000 a year from Social Security and maybe some retirement pension funds that they have from whatever job it is that you worked for the breadth of the time that you worked. So under current law, you would pay 10% on that first $9,325 of income, and then you would pay 15% on the rest of that income. And again, under our plan, our senior would pay 0%, nothing, on the first $12,000 if you were filing single, and just 12% instead of 15% on the rest of that income. So you can see some big savings right there. And as you can see, the vast majority of our district, it's middle class, and this bill that we passed out of the House, it lowers rates for middle and low income tax brackets. It's an incredible bill. I look forward whenever I get the chance to speak to people. I have the numbers on my phone, I have the charts on my phone, and talking to them about where their taxes would actually go. And people are amazed. It's been really great to talk to people about this. After the conference committee works out these differences, we will take a vote on the finalized version, which will then head to the president's desk for his signature. Then on Tuesday, we passed in the Enhancing Veteran Care Act. This bill authorized the VA to contract with outside entities to investigate VA facilities around the country to identify some of the very clear problems our veterans are facing as a result of VA deficiencies and malpractice. The number one casework request that we get in our office is to help veterans with the VA. Now, I want to also say this. One of the most positive things that I can say is also, just like I say that's the number one request that we get for assistance, it's also, it's also the number one thing that we get as far as positive things is people that want to tell me positive things about the VA as well. So, we want to make sure to get rid of all of those negatives, and we want to up the number of positives that we're getting. And it's why this bill is so important. It's also why we've been working to get that office inside of the West Palm Beach VA. We're getting ready to make a major announcement on that. I've been talking about that. I've been working on that since the moment that I was elected to office. It was an idea that I had back when I was a candidate. So I'm very excited about making that announcement on when we're going to actually open the doors on that. On the Foreign Affairs front, I sit on the Committee of Foreign Affairs. We also passed the Taylor Force Act. Last week before that, I talked about the fact that we passed that out of committee. Now we actually passed that on the floor of the House of Representatives. Right now, the Palestinian Authority has a disgusting policy of giving financial rewards to families of terrorists. And then, unbelievably, the U.S. has been sending them taxpayer dollars that could be used to fund that program. As we all know, money is very fungible. I think it's an absolutely disgusting practice, an absolute waste of your hard-earned dollars, everything that you do to go to work and earn money. This bill, it's good news. It's named for a former Army officer who was murdered in 2016 while traveling in Israel. This will stop U.S. taxpayer dollars from going to the Palestinian Authority to rewards terrorists for, as I heard somebody put it very well, they called it pay to slay, a pay to slay program. And I thought that was a very good way to put it. I can't believe we even need to pass such common sense bills, but I was glad to see that it passed with unanimous bipartisan support in the House of Representatives. It's amazing sometimes when that old saying, it shouldn't take an act of Congress to do something. Sometimes I'm amazed some of the things that it actually does take an act of Congress to accomplish. The time of these bills and the passage of them, it couldn't have been better, because on Wednesday, the president announced that the United States would, for the first time, recognize Jerusalem as the rightful capital of Israel. This is a momentous occasion for those of us who recognize the truth that Jerusalem is the rightful capital of Israel. It's fulfilled a promise by the president, who is doing exactly what he said he would do, and it's a fulfillment of U.S. law. Since 1995, the law on the books in the United States has said that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel and that our embassy should be in Israel, and now we are finally working to bring this to fruition. To nobody's surprise, Hamas has announced that they want a day of rage in response, urging people to go out there and protest with violence and destruction. It just proves that they will use any excuse that they can find to go out there and incite violence and to further reach their goal, the destruction of the state of Israel. It's disgusting, the things that I've seen on the terrorist front just in my life's work and now sitting on the Foreign Affairs Committee. This is yet another reason why we need to pass a bill that I introduced earlier this year called the Palestinian International Terrorism Support and Prevention Act to cut off Hamas and the sources of their funding. To go beyond that, some of the other things that we did. Also on Wednesday, we passed a Concealed Carry and Reciprocity Act, which will allow people to use their concealed carry permits across state lines. The simple fact is that your Second Amendment rights do not end when you cross state lines. If you have a concealed carry permit and enter another state that has a legal concealed carry permitting process, there is absolutely no reason why you should not be able to use your concealed carry permit in that area. So I've heard some confusion about this bill. I've also seen a lot of misreporting on this bill. So I'm going to go out there and clear some of the misconceptions that are going out there and what this bill actually does and does not do. This bill does not make it easier for anybody to go out there and purchase a firearm. In fact, this bill actually strengthens the background system, and hopefully it's an encouragement for people to go out there and go through the background check system, the most robust one, being what goes on with the concealed carry process. This bill does not change state laws. Every person will still need to abide by state and local laws that are in place. What this bill does is say that if you have a concealed carry permit in one state and another state also has a permitting process for a concealed carry, that your permit will be honored in that state. Just like if you have a driver's license, you don't have to go get a driver's license in another state. You still have to abide by that state's driving laws, whatever the speed limits are in that state and anything else that pertains to that. But what it says is that your driver's license will still be recognized. And this is in the exact same way, just saying you still have to abide by whatever the state laws are, but we will recognize that concealed carry permit. Lastly, I want to make mention of a bipartisan bill that I helped to introduce this week, and it's called the Fair Heroes Act to improve healthcare options for disabled veterans. It's, the thing that I'm always working on is making sure that we enhance the care of our veterans out there, the people that put on a uniform, served in defense of this country. As I always tell people, I hope we're all allowed a favorite. Those are the people that I served alongside, and so I try to do every bit of work that I can anytime that I see an opportunity to go out there and fight on that front. I fight for it with everything I had. So I know as well as anybody that the bureaucratic healthcare, the healthcare maze that awaits injured veterans when they get home, it's terrible. Right now, severely injured veterans can't even access their TRICARE benefits without first dipping into Medicare money that could be going to care for our seniors, because there are different Medicare pots that exist out there. That's the epitome of bad government bureaucracy. This bipartisan bill that I helped to introduce will make government more efficient, and it will ensure that our seriously injured veterans have access to the health care that best fits their needs. And I think that's one of the most important things that we can go out there and do. That about wraps up everything that we did for this week. As always, it is an honor to represent you here in Congress as a member of the House of Representatives. I hope that you have a great rest of your week, a great weekend. I always look forward to seeing you all around town. We're going to be here up in session. As you know, I usually come back home on the weekends, and my family's back, down in the district. We're pretty much going to be in session right up until Christmas, and so I'll just be back on the weekends, but I hope to see you all around town. I had a great week here this week with all of the legislation that we worked on, and with my wife being in town. She flew up this weekend in order to join me at the White House Christmas party and a few other Christmas parties. We left the kids and the dog with a sitter, and we were able to have some time together with just her and I. So that was something that was great, and I look forward to being home in a little bit with the rest of the family. Wish you all the best. Take care.